Here it is, everyone. The draw for 2014 Davis Cup. And hopefully Djokovic's hoping he looks like that at the end of November if Serbia can beat the Czechs in Serbia, in Belgrade. Anyways, as you look down here, how this works, it's not much different than the draws that they use at the Grand Slams, which unfortunately is based mainly on luck. They do put the top two, right here as you see, the top two finalists, the Czech Republic and Serbia, in the number 1 and 2 slot. After that, it's based on ranking for the seeds, and it's based on ranking for these two, and Czechs are ranked a little higher right now, as they're the defending champs. So anyways, all the rest of it's based on ranking, and that's why the U.S. is in there, and mainly teams that at least had one win this year in the World Group. 8 teams won the first round, and 8 teams lost the first round. And then those 8 teams played in quarterfinals. So the 8 first-round losers who had to play in the World Group playoffs this past week to try to stay in the World Group, of course, they aren't seeded, so the top 8 are seeded, so that all works out well. But after that, as far as who they all play and whatever, it's based on the picking out of a hat, basically, the luck of the draw. They also have seeding in Group 1. The top 2 are Brazil, who just got moved down from the World Group, and then Colombia, who just missed getting in, with that tough one with Japan. So they're the top 2. And then in Asia, Uzbekistan, who had a good year, and Korea Republic, which kind of surprised me, but I guess when you look at the remaining nations, it's not that challenging. In India, it struggled this year, and Pays wasn't able to do as well in the doubles, and the other players. Devarman was just coming back from injury, whatever. So, but it's still surprising. I think China, definitely Taiwan, if Liu plays. Even New Zealand, all these teams could be better than Korea. That's kind of shocking, but Korea had the better year, so the better rank. And then the Americas, this is Group 2 now. We moved down to Group 2. You have 4 seeds, actually. You have more teams down there because we don't have, the Group 4 has been eliminated. Now in Asia, they do have a Group 4 still, but there's still plenty of teams. So they have four seeds here in the Group 2 Americas, 4 seeds in Asia. And of course, Group 3 and Group 4 are a round-robin affair. Completely different setup, so they don't really have a seeding. They do have seeds, but they've already been figured out by who won the playoffs this year. The playoffs don't only decide who gets promoted and relegated in those Group 3 and 4, but it also decides, well, Group 4 there's no relegation, but it also decides, how they're seeded for the next year, so they don't go by ranking in 3 and 4. And you may notice there's a big one missing, Europe/Africa, which actually is split up into 2 in Group 3, but in Group 2s and 1 it's Europe/Africa. And the reason they're missing is because we are still waiting for this. This is the October 25th, right before Halloween. We have the relegation playoffs. Russia and South Africa and Denmark and Sweden. They're the last actually ties to go off for this year, for 2013. Until that happens, we don't know who's being relegated, though we do know who's being promoted. And as we go down through here, so obviously there is going to be draws for Group 1 Europe-Africa as soon as this is over. So let's just pop down real quick. We can take a look at, Group 4, again, Turkmenistan and Singapore, who upset Qatar in the playoffs, get to be promoted from Group 4 Asia. And that's the wrap on the Group 4. Group 3, and again, the Americas are no longer in Group 4. Group 3, let's just see who's relegated, as Turkmenistan and Singapore are coming up. Oman and Pacific Oceania will be relegated to Group 4. Vietnam and Hong Kong are going to be promoted to Group 2. In the Americas, Bolivia and Paraguay are promoted to Group 2. There is no Group 4, so. In Europe and Africa are split here in Group 3. Greece and Norway for Europe are being promoted. And for Africa, as you can see, Morocco and Egypt are promoted. So that's all wrapped. And then we have the Group 2, the Americas, and you can see this is how the draw, that we had this is for 2014. We had the draw come out yesterday, and not too many people are talking about Group 2. It's mainly about the World Group. But anyways, as you can see, we have Chile, Barbados, and you can see here, there's Paraguay who got promoted. There's Bolivia that got promoted. There's not too many in Americas here. Guatemala and Mexico there. And then in Asia, again, the promotion, Vietnam plays Pakistan. That's a winnable one. Hong Kong plays Thailand. That's going to be pretty tough for them. Hong Kong. Hong Kong just got promoted. Philippines, Sri Lanka. Philippines lost a tough one in the promotional playoff with New Zealand. And then Kuwait and Indonesia. And then finally Europe, Africa. Again, we don't know yet. I mean, we do know who's going to be promoted. It's going to be Finland. I'm sorry, Latvia beat Finland. Latvia and Portugal are going to be promoted. And, of course, the demotion, which we actually, the relegations, Benin, Hungary, Tunisia, and Estonia, all relegated. And did I skip Africa here in two? Oh yeah, they're down. Yeah, and there you see, they'll be relegated to Group 3. They don't have that all worked out yet. I mean, because the seeds will be ready and everything. And by the way, here you go. These are by the way, here's the playoffs. They're at 1st to 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. So that's how these seeds are going to be worked out for next year. They're already worked out. They just haven't put it on the site yet. But Group 2, all the relegations are done in Group 2, as you can see, for Europe, Africa. So there'll be these guys, like I said, Hungary and Tunisia. They're all going to be done in Group 3. Okay, so jumping up to Group 1, and I'm sorry, I think I skipped. For those who might want to know, did I skip? No, I got the Africa. Okay, back to Group 1. So, everything's done for the Americas, and that's why we had the seeding for 2014. And as you can see, we have Brazil is going to get a bye because they don't even have enough teams. That's a low number of teams there. Europe, Africa, they have too many teams. Venezuela and Ecuador are going to have to play. That's going to be a tough one, and that's funny because Venezuela just had a tough one with El Salvador, but Ecuador might be even a little tougher with Quirez and Gomez. That's going to be very interesting. Venezuela has the young kids Soto and Rodriguez. Okay, Dominican Republic and Uruguay. Dominican Republic has a chance. Colombia gets a bye. So, whoever wins these two are going to have a tough one with Brazil and Colombia, but I think Dominican Republic unfortunately gets the bad luck on that draw because Colombia will be tougher, I think, than Brazil. But I don't know if Bellucci comes back for Brazil. Asia, you have Uzbekistan, New Zealand, China. There's, again, more buys here, but the top two seeds, they get buys. The two seeds, the only two seeds. So New Zealand and China, India and Taiwan, those are going to be tough. And then, again, Europe, Africa, they're not done yet, so we don't see the 2014 yet. And then these up here got promoted already, and they played in the World Group playoffs. And, of course, Britain got in the World Group. Poland did not. Holland did. And Sweden did not. Actually, I'm sorry, Ukraine. Ukraine did not. Okay, so in October, Russia, South Africa, Denmark, and Sweden. It's going to be a tough. Sweden may be able to do it even without Soderling. Russia should get by a depleted South Africa. So, these are the World Group playoffs. Again, Spain won, they're in. Holland, Britain, just happened last week. Switzerland, Germany is in. Not too many tough ones here. Japan, Colombia was a barn burner, but Japan's in. Belgium and Israel was a barn burner. Belgium's in. Australia, okay. We have all four slam teams, USA, France, Australia, and Britain, in for the first time in a long time in the World Group. So here finally is the World Group for 2014, and here's how the draw worked out. The Czech Republic plays Holland. Shouldn't be too, that's good. I mean, it's at home for the Czechs, so that's a big one. Canada and Japan, and that's going to be tougher than people might think. It's going to be, and it's in Japan, so that's really going to be interesting. It's going to be about the fitness. It'll be early in the year. If they get a little rest, I mean, Japan could pull off that upset after Canada made that, but Canada's tough, so it's going to be about who's fit. Japan likes to play it faster, but that will actually help Raonic, so I don't know what they're going to do as far as the surface. It's going to be interesting. They could slow the Deco Turf up a lot if they want, open up the roof in Ariake, But maybe they can pick a different spot where it's even slower climate. Go down to where they have the WTA event. I forget the name off. Osaka. There's different places where it's even a little slower. So I don't know. I mean, there's different balls you can use. It'll be interesting because if they try to go fast like they usually do, Japan, it's going to help Raonic and Pospisil even more. Okay, Spain, Germany. Again, Germany doesn't have luck on their side on the draw, but they are at home. Dunlop Fort tournament ball. Possibly, I mean, for sure that's going to hurt Nadal and people like that, but it may actually be fine for Ferrer. He's a smaller guy, low to the ground. The low bounce wouldn't bother him. So I don't know. Germany was going to have a lot to think about as far as what kind of surface and ball. They could go for all-out speed, but honestly, Nadal, this is all about if Nadal plays, too. That's another thing. But a guy like Nadal, he doesn't mind speed as much as, in my opinion, a lower bounce hurts him more than faster speed nowadays. Okay, France and Australia. This is a really good one. These are some great ties here going on. France is at home. What can they do? Make it faster. That's not going to hurt. They'll probably go to clay for sure. But that probably won't hurt Australia that much either. It's just going to be a great matchup. And then here we go. Great Britain and the USA. They played the first Davis Cup ever. We can go to the Davis Cup history, and you see here. There's a lot of history, huh? There we go. 1900. And the Brits came over, and why did they lose? Because Britain was way better, than anybody really at the time. And they were the ones who started lawn tennis in the 1800s. But the United States, it was hot, humid weather with long grass and weedy grass. And that's what the Brits said. They said it was like going to the jungle, and they hated it. And they had to take bathroom breaks after every couple of games. I'm not kidding. This is all the stuff I've read about the history. So they were miserable. They tried it. They said they'll never come back again. But 2 years later, they came back and they lost again. And finally, and that was in Brooklyn. And I don't even know where I don't know where this exactly was. Then back to the Longwood Cricket Club, a famous club in Boston again for a second time in 1903. And they finally adjusted to the jungle. And maybe it wasn't as hot that year. Who knows? But and then finally they played in Britain a lot more. And they won when they played in London because it's a nice manicured grass there. Anyway, okay, so that's a really neat one with Britain and USA. And as it gets closer, we can look more at like all the matchups they've had. They had a great one. The last one they had was a great 5 live rubbers, I think. Italy, Argentina. Wow. Well, it's going to be on clay. I mean, I'd be shocked if it wasn't. That's going to be good for Italy as well. Maybe Argentina will make the clay slower, really slow it down. Maybe a head ball. I don't know. Yeah, I doubt that they'd go hardcore. It's not gonna. Yeah, there'd be clay. Interesting stuff there, though. And then that would be a great matchup. And Kazakhstan and Belgium, that's a very interesting matchup as well. In Kazakhstan, they go clay or they go fast. With Darcis and Bemelmans, and I wonder if Melis is ever going to play again. But anyways. Kazakhstan has an interesting, especially in February, the way their climate is. It's dry, but it's cold. But of course, you go indoor and it's heated up a bit. And they did this February against Hungary. Had a clay surface where the ball was just jumping off the surface. And against smaller guys like Darcis and Bemelmans, this might be really effective. So they may just go back to that, and it works well for Golubev and the rest of them. So that'll be an interesting matchup, an interesting pick of surface and venue. And then Serbia and Switzerland. Federer. If Federer and Wawrinka are there, this could be a major upset. But it's in Serbia, so they're going to go clay. But I mean, Federer and Wawrinka are great at clay. I mean, they can go whatever they want, slow, fast. I mean, Federer and Wawrinka will be fine either way. So it's just going to be about, are Federer and Wawrinka going to be fit and play? And if they are, watch out. Then Serbia is going to need Djokovic, I think. So that's it. Great. I mean, this year so far, in my opinion, the best of the year was in February. The first round was the greatest drama. There was probably the second best was in April. Then this was probably the worst in September, which was pretty average for a Davis Cup. There was some drama, especially Serbia and Canada, but lately, with all the depth in men's tennis, the drama has been incredible. So I wouldn't say September was incredible, but this looks like this is going to be incredible going into February. Okay, and then lastly, a look at the history real quick again. We're not going to go through all this going back to 1900. You can see a lot of, they called it Australasia back then because it included New Zealand and what have you. USA won a whole bunch. France. See, look at this. The Grand Slam nations. France again. Great Britain. See, Australia, USA. And of course, the Rod Laver years. See that? Australia dominated. Then USA again. Johnny Mack and company. Well, no, that was before Johnny, but whatever. But you can just see that. Finally we get some other ones. Italy, Sweden. See how long it took though? Bjorn Borg for Sweden. Germany, but that shows you how great these nations were, these Grand Slam nations, and it's great to have them back. And it's really a shame, in my opinion. I mean, tennis is huge in France, Australia, and England, but it needs to be bigger in America. The United States people I don't think they have any idea how big tennis has been in the past. And now we're losing tournaments in California here in the U.S. It's ridiculous, in my opinion. And I think if people got into Davis Cup for the United States, it would be huge. We love our team sports over here, and this stuff is a lot of drama and excitement. And then it involves countries. I mean, the people are already starting to, in New York City at least, are starting to like the World Cup in soccer. Why not the World Group in tennis? So, anyways, in the 2000s, we had some Sweden here coming into the 2000s, and we had look at some Russia, upstart Croatia, but then Spain. I mean, I'm surprised Spain hasn't won more. Honestly, I think the only reason they haven't is because when they're away, people pick a fast, low bouncing surface, and that might get them again next year. But with Germany, we'll see. But I mean, by far the most depth. I can't imagine any team has ever had more depth in the history of Davis Cup. It's amazing how much depth they have. I mean, 3 strings. Their third string could beat a lot of Davis Cup teams. Anyways, and then, and plus they're so smart, but they don't get to pick the surface when they're not at home. Anyway, you can see Serbia, Czech Republic, they've been the new guys on the block and been great, so that's going to be a great matchup in November. Those two are going to fight it out for the supremacy. And anyway, so there you go. You can see USA, it wasn't that long ago where we actually won. So, and we're getting there with Jim Courier. He's doing a good job. That's a wrap.